Hello there, I'm John Tanner, Global Technology Editor for Telecom Asia. We are at Capacity Asia 2013 in Bangkok, and joining me right now is my guest Rosami Rahman. He's the Executive Vice President for Global and Wholesale at Telecom Malaysia. Rosami, thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you.
As you know, we're seeing rising demand for international capacity as new markets open up and as mobile data traffic soars. How will operators in the ASEAN region be able to keep up?
If you look at the ASEAN regional players and the growth of the traffic, be it on IP or especially on the data, the ASEAN regional players has actually been investing over the last 5 to 10 years. Because they've invested in those capacities internationally, we are ready for it. And over the years, there are more and more new investments that it's been put in the waters today. So if you ask me today, is the ASEAN region ready for the growth of the data explosion, especially with LTE coming up? I'm certain that they are.
Okay, now you say that operators are ready, but do you think that the current level of investment in the region is enough to handle future bandwidth requirements?
It'll never be enough. And then that is the experience that we have for years and years, and we continue to invest in cable capacity. Reason is that, number one, you've got the maturity of technology on a submarine base from a 10 gig lambda to a 40 gig lambda, and nowadays on some of the new cable investment that we put in, it's 100 gig lambda. In the labs right now, they're testing on a 400 gig lambdas, right? So if you talk about the investment that has already been put in place, you get better, cheaper bandwidth out there, but as well, the question is that if you put in a new investment in place, then what happened to the older investment? How do you restore the service? So you continue, the continuity of actually investing in new submarine cable with a better technology to actually restore the old cable. Imagine if, one of the new cable that we got up, we're putting in place, developing right now, which is on 100 gig lambda. How many, lambdas on a 40 gig that we need to actually restore a service? So, and then on top of the fact that 30% increase in terms of the growth of data, especially IP, year on year, is continue to be there. And you can put as much in, but at the end of the day, it will never be enough.
So how is TM Wholesale working with local operators to prepare for the expected surge? I mean, where do you see the demand in, say, 2 or 3 years?
Right now, domestically, for TM, with the providers, they're getting their LTE license. The expectation is that it's going to be 100% growth in terms of the demand for their data. And on top of that, we're also not just looking at the operators that has the LTE, but also the need for Wi-Fi on the mobility side. So the integration, and if we look at it for the integration on the wireless data explosion is there. So we are, domestically we are helping a lot of the mobility providers to actually grow and connect to a lot of the radio base station, because on the 3G you still can do microwave, but on the LTE you need fiber in there because the amount of bandwidth that is required. As well as when we look at it from a regional perspective, the domestic players will also need requirement going towards the ASEAN countries, and especially the ASEAN is opening up their market. So there is a need for a cross sharing of content among the ASEAN members. There's already talk by the ASEAN ministers to share a lot of this content together, and I think that's where Global and Wholesale for TM is focusing on, to see how we can actually create a niche new market towards the content that we can share among the ASEAN members.
What services will be in most demand, and how does that impact TM's future planning?
It's going to be data. If you look at the voice side of the business, it's stabilized. It's not, it'll not grow. I've always been, we talk about, the growth of the voice side of the business, but, let's be honest about it, the OTTs, technology and the software, it's getting more mature, VoIP. You get high definition VoIP right now on OTT, which is great. So we're seeing more and more of the data growth.
Well, lots to talk about and not nearly enough time to talk about it, but Razami Rahman of Telekom Malaysia, thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you.